radical, the other was the rational. Chapter 7 and Chapter 9. So this is the Chapter 7 stuff. Do you remember what was the first step to solve a radical equation? Okay. So what do you want to do with that negative x? Add it. You have to isolate the radical, right? First step, isolate the radical. So in that case, we would say 2x plus 7 equals x plus 2. Okay? Now what? Yeah, you undo the radical in one way or the other. It just depends what the radical is. In this case, it's a square root. So how do you undo a square root? Square it. Right? So 2. Undo the square root. Well, I shouldn't even say square root. Undo the radical. Okay, so when I square both sides, the square of a square root is whatever's inside, right? 2x plus 7. Okay, x plus 2 squared is not x squared plus 2 squared. Remember, it's x plus 2 times x plus 2. It's a FOIL. Right? It's a very common mistake. You want to say, just square that and square that. You can't do that. Right? X plus 2 squared means x plus 2 times itself. Right? And that is x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, and then the last step, solve whatever you got left. You know, what kind of an equation is that? It's quadratic, right, because it's squared. So you got to think back, okay, how do we solve quadratics? Generally, you end up putting everything on one side, 0 on the other. So let's do that. Subtract 2x, subtract 2x. Subtract 7. And then it just depends. So usually the first thing you ask yourself when you do something like that is it factorable? Because if it is, that probably means there's an easy way to it. Right? So can you think of two numbers whose product is -3 and their sum is +2? 3 and -1. So 0 equals x plus 3 times x minus 1. So x equals -3, +1. Okay. Now remember, you have to check your solutions. When you have a radical that has a variable inside and there's another variable outside, it's very possible that one of those solutions does not check. And in fact, the -3, you should be able to tell pretty easily. If I put in a -3 here, then this becomes +3 because of the minus in front. Now, when I subtract 3 from both sides, I got a radical equals -1. But you always assume the radical is a positive. It can't be that this radical equals -1. So that's extraneous. Right? So this is extraneous. Doesn't check. Therefore, extraneous. So the only answer is the 1.